The South Carolina Gamecocks are hoping to build upon their successful season in 2023. Now, they didn't have the best of records, but Shane Beamer is hopeful that the Gamecocks can get back on track and win big time in the SEC. They've gone to the portal. They've hired some new coaching staff. We're heading out to Columbia, South Carolina to give you an inside look on the South Carolina Gamecocks football program heading into the 2024 season. I'm Nathan Johnston here with my co-host Brad Hawkins. It's time to break the huddle. Brad, as I mentioned, a lot of changes going on at South Carolina right now. We know that Spencer Rattler is gone. He's heading to the NFL. And Shane Beamer is going to have to replace a very dynamic quarterback. Look, Spencer Rattler got a lot of heat at South Carolina, at Oklahoma, but you can't deny he had a great tenure for the Gamecocks and really elevated that program to a place where I don't think many people expected them to be. I'll turn it over to you, Brad. What are your thoughts on, Shane Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks heading into the 2024 season?
Yeah, Nate, and I want to start off by saying I'm so glad that you brought up Spencer Rattler. Of course, just a quick little background about him. Of course, a few years ago, coming out of high school in Phoenix, Arizona, he was a consensus five-star player. A lot of services, and people had him as the number one quarterback in the country. Went to Oklahoma and had a successful career, but ultimately got beat out by Caleb Williams, and then transferred to South Carolina. And Nate, I'm with you. The numbers, they don't blow you away. In 2 seasons there, 18 touchdowns, 19 touchdowns respectively in 22 and 23. I think Spencer's a good quarterback. Was accurate, was not going to kill you with his legs, but could definitely move around, and make some things happen off schedule and off platform when the pocket broke down. I think he's definitely better than what the numbers show and what the stats show. Nate, I will never forget that 2022 season when Tennessee comes into town and Spencer Rattler was dealing. I mean, man, did he look good that night. And I think that shows you what kind of quarterback he is. And I transition to 2024. Look, South Carolina, I'm going to be frank, they're in a mess, Nate, to me. They go 5-7 last year. I'm a fan of Shane Beamer. I like him, but pressure's on this year because you go 5-7 last year in the SEC, and look, we added Texas and Oklahoma in here now, and things just got a whole lot tougher. Nate, not to mention you lose Spencer Rattler, you lose Juice Wells to Ole Miss, who was a dynamic playmaker, and then you lose Xavier Legette. I mean, those are big losses just on the offensive side of the football. Nate, me and you talk a lot about the transfer portal all fair. South Carolina lost 23 players in the transfer portal. I mean, that's a huge number. And granted, I realize all these guys were not playing big minutes. Some of them, were walk-ons, and some of them were guys way on down the depth chart. But to lose 23 players, I mean, that's significant. Nate, just a couple of guys I want to point out here, transfer portal-wise, and then talking about one true freshman. We talk about this quarterback battle. South Carolina brought in 2 transfer quarterbacks. One, Davis Beville, who transferred from Oklahoma. He originally started his career at Pitt. He's a big kid, goes about 6'6", has got a good arm. He's going to be in it. And then Robbie Ashford, who, if you're an SEC fan, if you follow SEC football, you're going to be familiar with this guy's name. Of course, he started his career at Oregon, transferred back home to Alabama to play at Auburn, and had some playing time there at Auburn, but he transfers to South Carolina. In my opinion, he's probably the favorite for the job with just his ability to run the football. But Nate, once again, I go back to, I really think South Carolina fans are going to realize that Spencer Rattler was better than he was given credit for, because to me, there is not an SEC caliber level quarterback, on this roster. I wanted to point out another guy that South Carolina was able to go and get, and that's 5-star edge defender Dylan Stewart. He's from the Washington, D.C. area. And look, South Carolina, it's not a bad recruiting class at 18th overall, but, once again, 18th overall in the nation is not good enough in the SEC. And that's the reality of it. Dylan Stewart's he's the star, he's the big fish of this class, but Nate, I got to be honest. I think there's some holes, and this is no disrespect to Shane Beamer. This is no disrespect to the South Carolina program, but I think it's going to be a long season. I think South Carolina struggles. I think South Carolina is anywhere from 3-9 to 5-7. I think Shane Beamer at this. I think South Carolina at this point next year is looking for going to be breaking a new head coach. And I think Shane Beamer is going to be somewhere else. I really, really do think that they're in for a long season, and that's just the reality of it. The lack of depth, the lack of quarterback. I don't think it's going to be pleasant times in Columbia this year.
Wow, Brad. Wow, that's all.
I know it's a hot take, but that's what we're here for.
A lot of heat for the South Carolina football fans. We'll see what they say in the comments. But one thing that I will say, Brad, and I do agree with you, there's a lot of holes to fill in that program. But I think Shane Beamer did a decent job and during this offseason going out and getting some guys up front. I think he kind of took your comment personally before you even made the comment. Let's just name off a couple of these guys. He goes out and gets, and I'll start off with the incoming freshman. He goes and gets offensive tackle Josiah Thompson, 6'6.5", 265. On the smaller side, but you have to think he's going to gain 20 to 30 pounds in the offseason. And then they also go out and get a big old boy in Cam Pringle, offensive tackle from Dorchester, South Carolina, 6'8", 340. This is a very highly talented four-star coming into college. They go out and get interior offensive lineman from Greenville, South Carolina, Blake Frank, 6'5", 325. The size is there, Brad. They went out and did a tremendous job. They go out and get Michael Smith out of Savannah, Georgia, tight end, 6'4", 245. Running back Matthew Fuller from Jessup, Georgia, 5'11", 210, another four-star guy. I could go on and on and on and on. I want to mention a couple of transfers as well. They get defensive lineman Monkel Goodwine from Alabama, 6'4", 275. I think he's going to be a tremendous addition for the Gamecocks. And then you look at a guy like Aaron Parks. This is a plug-and-play kind of guy from Oklahoma, offensive tackle, 6'4", 330 pounds. So, Brad, I think to your point about, South Carolina struggling up front, I think that was Shane Beamer's biggest concern heading into the 2024 season. And this is another guy that a lot of people know that we didn't get to mention, Rocket Sanders, running back from Arkansas, 6'2", 210. He's going to be a tremendous addition for the Gamecocks as well. They avoid Georgia. Now they have to go on the road to play at Oklahoma, at Alabama. They play LSU at home with a couple of other really, really good SEC talent teams. But overall, I'm very intrigued to see how good this Gamecocks program can be this upcoming season, especially with the divisions breaking away. We can look on paper and say, well, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. But at the end of the day, it's a coin flip, man. And we don't know what's going to happen. I do agree with your point. There is a lot, again, there's a lot of holes to fill. It's not going to be easy for Shane Beamer this season. And I want to mention a couple of coaching changes as well. They went out and got James Cooley to be an assistant coach. He gets pulled away and goes back to Athens, Georgia to be an assistant coach there. But they go out and get Mike Fury. He's going to be the new wide receiver coach for the University of South Carolina. I think it's a great addition for that staff. Mike Fury brings a lot of experience to that program. And then another guy that not many people know about, Sean Elliott, former head coach at Georgia State. He leaves the head coaching job to go be an assistant at South Carolina. Now, he didn't have the best record as a head coach, but he's a very, very talented guy when it comes to coaching staff hires. He's going to be their new tight ends coach and run game coordinator. I think he's going to be a tremendous addition to Shane Beamer's staff. Look, like you mentioned, this could be a make it or break it year for Shane Beamer at South Carolina. I hope they give him a couple more years just to really get, his feet settled in there and be able to do what he needs to do at that program. Because unlike a lot of these other schools, Brad, and these other conferences, it's hard to coach in the SEC. And when you have so much pressure on you from year one, and I get it, they understand what they're getting themselves into, especially a guy like Shane Beamer. But, man, you got to give him some time to develop. And if there's any slight spark of success, you need to give them a little bit more time because you just never know when that breakthrough is going to come. I understand at some point you got to let go and move on, but I'm really hoping the best for Shane Beamer, but it's going to be tough sledding heading into the 2024 season. If you're a Gamecocks fan, let us know in the comment about Brad's hot take going 3-9. Or do you think your Gamecocks are going to have a successful winning season this upcoming fall? We'll see you next week. It's time to break the huddle.